I guess until the age I was 4, my parents got divorced and everything, but like, I kind of just, with my dad, just always just told me just like, just like read the Bible sometimes and stuff like that. And like, I don't know, it's kind of rough. It was just already there. I already knew God existed like within me. I wasn't like pushed towards that there's not a God or anything. So I kind of just like only knew the Christian faith. Like I didn't really know any other faith. So when I prayed, I was always just consistently praying to God, because I was young, so I wasn't really at an age of accountability. So I always just prayed consistently all the time, knowing that Jesus was Lord, and just not really knowing anything about the Bible, So like I never like went to church or anything. I kind of just claimed I was a Christian. I just said I was a Christian without really knowing it, but all along I was actually lukewarm without really knowing it. What made me, how I came to know Christ was when my dad got sick with cancer. Back in 2015, he came back to the Lord, because after my parents got divorced, my mom and my dad were completely walked away, went down their whole paths. And when my dad found out he had cancer, he got very involved in the church again the last 2 years of his life. And every time I would go visit him on weekends, because when he was sick, I used to live with him. And then after he got sick, I had to go live with my mom. So my dad was living on his own by himself because he was passing away. He lived in like a small apartment. And he would ask me every Sunday, like, do you want to come to church with me? I would always go with him, and I would just feel the presence of the Lord there without really knowing it. It's just like almost as if I knew like the Lord was calling my dad. I guess I just felt that, and it was just a great just holiness and pureness and just happiness, like going to church with my father. And yeah, like then after like kind of like my dad passed away, I kind of like stepped away from the faith. The last image I have of my dad is him in a hospital bed, and he had his arms up saying, "Jesus, I'm ready." That was the last words I ever saw my dad speak. And after that, that was it. That was the last words I ever heard my dad speak. And after that, my dad passing away and everything, I kind of just fell off like completely. Like I was saying before, I went down like my own path. I wasn't praying anymore. I wasn't involved in any church because I didn't have my own car at the time to go to my own church or anything. And not until I met my girlfriend in November, and thank God her family was Christian, and she was lukewarm as well. She's like, "Hey, you should just come to church with my friend, with my family, and come and live in faith." And I was like, "All right." And when I came here, it was very overwhelming for me at first, thinking about the last time I was in a church was with my father, thinking about how I felt that. And when I first came here, I didn't feel that same happiness and that joy. I felt dark, like I felt like dirty. I knew I was doing things that were wrong. And later on like 2 years later in October, I went through my own anxiety, like really, really bad, like completely, like a lot of like unwanted thoughts, just like overthinking a lot, and just lies just coming to my head and stuff. And I just had nowhere else to run. I just didn't know what to do. And I remember just coming to the church one day, and I was writing on the pad at on the beginning of the service, you could write like a prayer request. And I remember writing on there, like as soon as I wrote that I was overthinking, having unwanted thoughts, I just started breaking out, like crying hysterically, because I'd never it's different when you hear it in your head, but when you actually write it on paper and read it, it kind of hits you different. And I just remember going up to Pastor Ed, and I remember telling him, like, I'm getting these crazy unwanted thoughts, my anxiety is just kicking in like crazy and stuff like that. And he sat me down, I spoke to someone, and then he was telling me about he brought up my dad and stuff, like, suppressing a lot of my feelings and stuff like that. Because after my dad passed away, I kind of suppressed it. I didn't even cry at the funeral, nothing. I kind of just suppressed it. A couple weeks later, I get a call from Jim, and he asked me, "Did you truly, accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did." I was like, when I was like a little kid, I've been a Christian my whole life. Like, I'm a Christian. Like, I go to church. I'm going to heaven. Like, And he's like, "No, did you like truly? Did you actually?" And I'm just sitting there second guessing myself, just like, I don't know, did I? And I was like, and he asked me, he's like, "You should really do the prayer, like by accepting Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior." And I was like, I don't feel I have anywhere else to run. I don't want to go down the wrong path of doing drugs or drinking. I don't want to do any of that. So I said, let me give this a shot. Let me see what God can do for me. Like what His plan is for me. And I remember just sitting there, just praying, just completely putting my full trust in Jesus, just saying, Jesus, like, I'm putting my full trust in you. I'm gonna love you with all my heart, mind, and soul, and I'm just gonna live for you and no longer myself. And immediately at that moment, I just saw a light. Like everything was just a weight lifted off of me. Everything was beautiful. I was involved in my church. I started going to the gym again. I started reading the Bible more. I started understanding biblical truth and everything. My mind started getting to just an amazing place.